Alright, hello. So right now we are going to take a look at the GPT 3.5 Turbo workflow and our GPT-4 workflow. They are completely identical. There's nothing, there's no difference. The only thing that there is as a difference is that the model. So right now, the model right here in this one is GPT-4, so we can set that as GPT 3.5 Turbo. And our model in GPT-4 should be GPT-4. As you can see right here, this is the only difference. We can set this to either of them, so this code, this API call, will also work as GPT-4, not 5, but 4, 3.5 Turbo. So yeah. What is happening in our first node, which is, again, all of the nodes are identical, is that we are capturing whatever the users would like to know, and we are saving that in our workflow variable called user prompt, which we have right here. And then we are referencing that in right here. So we say that the role is the user, and the content is the question or whatever we would like to send to the model to get an answer to. Is that this is the user's message. You can delete this and just whatever this is, but just for best practices, I like to have this in here. And then whatever the users would like to know. Another thing is that the API key is this right here. If you haven't already set up your API key, go back and watch the first video to learn how to set up the API key. And it just changed back, 3.5 Turbo. I must have forgotten to save it. So yeah, the model, GPT 3.5 Turbo, you can change that up. You can see right here that we are saving the error message. In this workflow variable called error, we are also sending if there's an error message in the console. And the only reason we really need this in our template is to reference it right here in our expression card. Our condition is just this variable right here. Now, if there's something in this variable, this will get triggered. If there's nothing in it, it will just pass right through it. But if there's something in it, it will be triggered, and it will send the workflow down to this message right here, which is saying that there was an error with the API call. Then we are sending out the error message, and then there will be some error code in here. And we are basically saying that you can learn more about error codes as in this link, which is just a link to the OpenAI docs about error codes. So yeah. Then we have the temperature right here, and we have the maximum amount of tokens. Also, if you want to, remember everything that we're editing in here, everything that I'm telling you about this code right here is basically the same for this code right here in the GPT-4 workflow. So whatever you want to do and that I'm saying that you can do with this code, you can also do with the other API call. So edit the user's message. If you want it to be something else, you can right here. The temperature, I have set this to 0. You can set it to 0.7. You can set it to anything between 0 and 1. The higher the number is, the closer it is to 1, the more unstable and the more creative its response will be. Setting it to 0 is a very stable, but setting it to 1 is very unstable, and the messages and the replies from the model will be a bit crazy, and sometimes you can't even understand anything that's saying. I like to have it at like 0.3. It can also be 0.2 just for conversations. If you want a bit like more different, if you want more different messages from the bot, you can set it to 0.6. It's also pretty stable, and it will generate some different answers to the user's questions every time. Setting it to 0 will generate the same answer to the user's questions. So yeah, the maximum amount of tokens right here. You can have this as a comment if you don't want to use it. What this does is just it limits the amount of tokens that the model can generate. And Yeah, so we have set this to 5. You would normally have it to like maybe 500. Maybe you won't even have it on here. You can delete this. This is not something that has to be in here. The reason why you would have it in here is to make sure that no one is abusing your bot and running up your token costs. Because someone can just go in and say, type in a really long prompt to make the bot generate a really long answer, which will cost you a lot of money in the long run. So I like to have it just as 500. This makes sure that before the users really can do anything that really harms and really costs me a lot of money, I will usually catch it. But if you aren't really worried about that, you can just delete it. You can set this to anything. Just to show you, we will set this to 5 and we will do a test message. So GPT-3.5-Turbo, write me a poem about Denmark. And as you can see, in the Denmark's land off, and then it just cuts off. And we can go down to here and see that the completion tokens are 5. And this is because we have cut it off. If we go back in here and say 5,000, this will not be cut off then. We can go back in here and say, write me a poem about Denmark. And then an error occurred with status code 500. I probably did something wrong. Oh yeah, this is too high. This is because the amount of knowledge that the bot can have is less than 5,000. So if you set this to 1,000, then the maximum amount of tokens it can take is less than 5,000. So if you just try that again, write me a poem about Denmark. This should work. It's gonna take a bit of time. It's a long prompt. So yeah, right here, it wrote a pretty long poem about it without any issues. So yeah, basically you can set the maximum of tokens to whatever you want. You can delete it if you don't feel that it's necessary for your bot. Now, the amount of tokens that we are using, if you want to know that for some reason, maybe you want to charge the users based on the tokens, we are logging it just to show you how you can do it with all of the different kind of measures for tokens. So the total amount of tokens will be this right here, which is a combination of the user's message and the bot's message. The completion tokens is what we can edit with maximum amount of tokens, and it's just the bot's response, like the bot's message amount of tokens. So if you set it to 5, it cannot print out more than 5 tokens. And prompt tokens is the amount of tokens that the user used in the prompt. So if we just test this out, we can do it just like this and say we don't want a long prompt. So we will just do, what is 2 plus 2? That's pretty simple. As we can see, we logged it down here. So the total amount of tokens used is 27, which is just this one plus this one. The completion tokens is 11, which is the bot's response right here. The sum of 2 plus 2 is 4. And the prompt tokens is 16, which is this one. You might be like, oh, well, this message is less than this one. How can it be that it's more tokens? Well, if you go back into here and you just see user's message, this is also tokens that gets used in the prompt. So yeah, if we go down to here, we can see that I have also saved in a workflow variable, and this is just the total amount of tokens. And you might be quick and see that the total amount of tokens used is 27, which is also the number right here. This is just to send it to the user or maybe reference it in another variable. And right here, we are saving the response from the bot, which is this path right here. So we are saving that in the workflow variable called response. You can also console.log it if that is what you want to do. And this is just what we're printing out right here or right here. So yeah, someone asked me if this could be done, like if this could run while the rest of the workflow is also running. So let's say that you want to find something in the user's message. Maybe you want to know what their favorite steak is. You can't do that while the rest of the workflow is running, so you don't have to pause the whole workflow. This is why you might want to integrate this API call, so you don't have to use the AI task. When using the AI task, it stops the whole workflow while this is running. We are doing the same right now, but we can do it in another way, so it doesn't stop the whole workflow. And just so you also know, task instructions right here is what you want to accomplish with this task. This is going to be the same as I have commented out right here, but as this system role right here. So we are setting the AI task instructions like you would right here. We are going to set that as the content right here. So the goal is to find out what the user's favorite steak is from the user's message. Only write the kind of steak, don't add any fill words to it. So why do we want to do that? Well, maybe we ask the user, what is your favorite steak? And they might respond with something like, oh, my favorite steak is a T-bone steak. We don't really want that whole message. We only want the T-bone steak part, or maybe even just T-bone from it. So this is why we might want to use this. Some people have used the AI task, but again, it stops the whole workflow. AI task input is whatever we want to have to be like this right here. So the user's kind of message, the prompt to the model. For us, that is user's message and then the user's message. And whatever you have had in here, you can just replace. Store result in variables. We don't actually have to have that here. We are doing this down here. So whatever variable you want to save it as, you can just edit this to be that variable. Now we have this right here, and we will, instead of asking a question, we will play it out like instead of what we would like to know, it would maybe say, what is your favorite steak? And we will say, my favorite steak is a T-bone steak. And as you can see right here, it only sent T-bone. You can use this however you want. If you want to test it out and see if you can do it some other ways and you get stuck or something, let me know and I'll be happy to help you. But yeah, these are some of the simplest ways to use this. This can be done more advanced. Oh yeah, and also I have to mention right now, as you saw, it has stopped the whole workflow, which is why we wanted to use the API call, so it didn't do that. The only thing you have to do is go down here and just delete this. Delete await, and you can continue with your workflow. So this is gonna skip all of these, most likely. And we can just, now we maybe want to ask the user, so is this card right here? What is your favorite soup? Because we also want that. Maybe we are building this bot for a restaurant and we'll save that in some variable. We will do this again. So right here. There we go. And we just say that my favorite steak is a T-bone steak. So this is because we sent a message. Of course, we will have to delete this in our actual public version of this. But your favorite soup will be now ask the user, and as you can see right here, we still saved it, and now the bot came back with the user's favorite steak is a T-bone. So this means that you now have saved it in the response variable right here, but you can reference that later. So maybe you want to have send maybe a message to your restaurant saying, oh, the user's favorite steak is T-bone steak and their favorite soup is I don't know, tomato soup, and you want to send that. This is just a way to use it. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know and I'll be happy to help you with using this. So yeah.